Hey guys, it's Alexis. I'm here today to film my March wrap-up. I ended up reading a total of about 9 books in March. Technically, I DNF'd one in like the first 2 days of April, but I'm gonna go ahead and count that in this anyway because I didn't read any of it in April, so I'm gonna go ahead and count it. So the first book I read in the month of March was The Dream Thieves by Maggie Stiefvater. Of course, this is the second book in the Raven Cycle series by her. I can't go too much into the plot because of that, but basically what I will say is that this book series is about a girl named Blue Sargent and her connection to this group of 4 boys called the Raven Boys, and their search for a Welsh king who's been sleeping for over 100 years. I absolutely love this series. To be honest, I'm really in love with the characters and like the plot. I don't think these are the best books I've ever read, but they're they're easily to get obsessed with. So I ended up giving The Dream Thieves 4.5 out of 5 stars. I did take off half a star because there were some parts in this book where I was really confused by what was going on. And I don't know if that was even intentional or if it was not supposed to happen, but basically some of Maggie Stiefvater's figurative language, I really couldn't tell if she was using figurative language or if she was being literal, and so parts of the book I had no idea what was going on. But for the most part, I really enjoyed this book. This is actually my favorite book in the series so far because this book has a lot to do with my favorite character, which is Ronan Lynch. And yeah, so I really enjoyed The Dream Thieves. So, of course, after reading that, I had to follow it up with reading Blue Lily Lily Blue, which is the 3rd book in the Raven Cycle series by Maggie Stiefvater. I ended up giving this one a 4 out of 5 stars. For me personally, I felt like not much happened in this book. I feel like it was a lot of talking about the characters, which is fine, but Maggie Stiefvater introduced some parts in this book that I just felt were kind of lackluster. We meet like a villain in this book, and I kind of felt like nothing happened. I don't really feel like there was a climax. So overall I still did very much enjoy it, and it was a great setup for The Raven King, which comes out at the end of April, and I am very excited for. I will be out of school by then, so I'll definitely be buying it the day it comes out and spending 12 hours just reading it, so I'm very excited. The next book I finished in the month of March was What Belongs to You by Garth Greenwell. I wanted to love this book. I really did. I bought it the day it came out. I was so excited to read it because I had seen a thing about it on BuzzFeed where the people from BuzzFeed were really raving about it, so I was super excited. And I just really didn't. I ended up giving What Belongs to You a 2 out of 5 stars. What Belongs to You is about a unnamed narrator who is a teacher in Bulgaria, and it's about his relationship with a male prostitute over the course of several years, and how this particular male prostitute keeps coming back into his life. And I loved the main character. I loved the events in his life and how he kind of shapes those up to talk about who he became as a person. I loved the way he handled everything. I loved his inner thoughts, but I hated the way this book was written. So it's written in 3 parts, and basically each part is made up of only 12 paragraphs total, which are made up of only about 6 sentences total, and it's all just comma splices, and it's very stream of conscious, which is not my thing anyway. I've never really been a fan of that writing style. And so basically reading this book was exhausting to me because it felt like there was no break. It felt like my mind was just running a marathon, and I hated it. And that sounds terrible, but so yeah, I ended up giving this 2 out of 5 stars. The next book I read in the month of March was More Happy Than Not by Adam Silvera, and I got it signed when I met him at SCYA. So, Adam Silvera is the nicest guy ever, and you should read this book. Just for that, because he's a nice guy. But this book is about a teen in New York, in one of the boroughs of New York. His girlfriend goes away for a couple of weeks in the summer, and he becomes really close with this guy, and it's kind of about how he falls in love with this best friend that he develops. And yeah, a lot of stuff ends up happening in this book. I will honestly say there's a huge plot twist in this book that I didn't see coming. I'm usually pretty good about predicting plot twists just because I've read a lot of books. But this one actually totally threw me for a loop. I was very surprised. So a plus to you, Adam Silvera. I ended up giving this a 4 out of 5 stars. For me personally, I really loved the first 2/3 of the book, but for me the last third of the book was a little slow. It kind of just dragged on. I feel like it didn't need to be nearly as long as it was. And one of the things that happens at the end of the book, for some reason, just really wasn't believable to me. I really wasn't sold on the idea. So yeah, I ended up giving this 4 out of 5 stars, but it is a good book and I do suggest everybody reads it. The next book I read in the month of March, I totally picked up on a whim, and I'm glad I did, and that is Captive Prince by C.S. Pacat. I read this actually in ebook format. I'll just give you a spoiler alert, I read the whole series in March, but I loved them so much I went ahead and bought them in a physical copy. So Captive Prince is basically about a prince named Daemon whose brother kind of pulls like a coup d'etat and steals the throne from. So Daemon I'm explaining this poorly. So Daemon gets sent to Vera as a slave, and he ends up in the or under the ownership of the Prince of Vera, Laurent, who is basically Daemon's sworn enemy because of reasons. And so Laurent doesn't know it's Daemon, and so Daemon basically has to put up with this society in order to survive. And basically this book has like, I hate to make a comparison to Game of Thrones because it's nothing like Game of Thrones, but it has the political and court intrigue that Game of Thrones does. And this is an LGBT fantasy romance, so it does follow those themes, and there are also a lot of trigger warnings in this book. I mean, I feel like you can look those up and see them for yourself, so I won't list them all here, but it does feature trigger warnings for rape, brutality, torture, a lot of stuff, but these books really are so good. And the first one read really fast because it was originally published online, so the first one's only like 200 and something pages, so it's very short, and I ended up giving book 1 a 4 out of 5 stars. So, of course, I had to follow that up with books 2 and 3 in the Captive Prince trilogy by C.S. Pacat. So that is Prince's Gambit, and then King's Rising is the final book. This one just came out this year. And I ended up giving both of these a 5 out of 5 stars. Honestly, these two are so ahead of where book 1 was. Like, book 1 was good, it was very hooking and engaging, but like, these two are written better, they're developed better. These books have plot twists for days, the characters are so interesting, I love the dialogue, and of course, the romance is swoon-worthy, I absolutely adored it. And yeah, basically, if you read the first book and you don't really enjoy it, I even would still highly suggest you push on to book 2 because it's so much better than how book 1 was. It's fantastic. But I could go on. I might do a whole review video for these books because I love them so much. The last book I actually completed in the month of March was Lucky by Alice Sebold. This is Alice Sebold's memoir about when she was raped as a college freshman at Syracuse University. And it's about the subsequent trial that her rapist goes through, and about like the toll it takes on her and her friendships and the people in her life. And it was a fantastic memoir. I've been wanting to read this book for years, since I first read The Lovely Bones, which is also by Alice Sebold, and it was a really insightful memoir and I really loved the way it was written. All in all, I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. So the last book I'm going to mention is the book I DNF'd in the month of March, and that was Me Before You by Jojo Moyes. I got over halfway through this book. I think I was like 180 pages in or something like that, and this is going to be a very unpopular opinion, I hated this book so much. And it basically comes down to the fact that I only liked one character. I liked Will, and that is the quadriplegic man in the story, but other than that, I really disliked every single other character in this book. Like, if I could have punched them all, I would. I found the main character, Louisa, to be selfish, arrogant, socially inept, just inept in general in life. And my biggest problem that I had with this book was that pretty much every character in this novel went through the process of dehumanizing Will, in that they take all of his decisions away from him, and I have a serious problem with that. I have a lot of problems with this book, which is really sad because I was really looking forward to it, and I'm actually still going to go see the movie because I think the movie is going to be a lot better in my opinion because I hated the book so much, but I don't know, I could be wrong. So those were all of the books I read in March. I think it ended up being a total of 9 books. Overall, I had a really good reading month. I loved a lot of the books I read this month, with the exception of 2. And so I'm really excited for April because I'm hoping April will be a stellar reading month as well. So you guys should let me know down below what books you guys read in March, and if you've read any of these books and how you felt about them, and yeah. So, bye guys!